I am Drew, aka Redrew89, the creator of Lielle, Rose of the North. I wanted to create this video as a sort of behind-the-scenes look at the next release version of my mod, teasing a few of the new features that will be available, and also discussing some of the inspirations for this mod and the character it centers around. Lielle was inspired as a result of my own experience in role-playing interesting character builds in Skyrim. In mid-2014, I had challenged myself with a modded playthrough featuring a full mage character build. That is to say, this character would exclusively use magic, particularly from the Destruction, Restoration, and Alteration schools, and would not use any equipped armor, with some exceptions. As I designed and played with early iterations of the character that would later become Lielle, I found myself semi-consciously developing a backstory and unique personality for the character, defining her motivations, moral alignment, and how she would interact with other factions and characters in-universe. By 2017, I had largely settled on a character design for Lielle across multiple playthrough attempts and mod loadouts. During that time, I had become so immersed in the process, I had considered other methods of sharing Lielle's story with the larger Skyrim community, including a now scrapped concept for a YouTube machinima series, which featured Lielle as the player protagonist and fledgling Dragonborn. At this time, a larger portion of Lielle's personality was heavily inspired by other strong female leads in popular media, particularly the lead character of Avatar: The Legend of Korra.
For the past 20 years, I've been searching, seeking out something. I can't put it into words, but this feeling, it's like something growing within me.
After ultimately deciding against the machinima concept, I instead adjusted my focus. By early 2018, I had gained some experience not just as a player of modded Skyrim, but as a dabbling mod author. It was around this time that I decided to challenge myself once more. I busted open the creation kit and spent many fervent hours poring over the official wiki, and soon Lielle began to take shape as a newly reborn standalone follower. The earliest builds of Lielle were simple, with no unique dialogue, borrowing the venerated female young eager voice type in the vanilla game, used by such other characters as Braylon Amarion and Jarl Elisif. However, I wasn't content to just slap together something so flat and two-dimensional. As Lielle was no longer going to be the main protagonist of the overall story taking place in-game, I found it necessary to tweak her character traits and portions of her backstory. In narrative terms, I decided to shift her role into that of deuteragonist, with her own story occasionally intersecting with events in the larger game world. Her character personality also underwent a few revisions. I instead drew inspiration from other strong female supporting characters who were less confrontational and more intellectually motivated, similar, for instance, to Hermione Granger of the Harry Potter franchise. From the beginning of Lielle's early development, I had decided I wanted to incorporate features that were both staple to modded follower characters such as Inigo, Vilja, and major characters in interesting NPCs, as well as features that would be relatively unique among Skyrim followers. Lielle was never meant to be just another follower the player would drag around the various dungeons, using her as arrow fodder and a convenient pack mule. This is why I decided to create the Arcane Research series of quests. As the player explores Skyrim and delves into its hidden corners, one often finds a number of storied and unique artifacts, steeped in the vast lore of the Elder Scrolls universe. However, as most players who have been through the game a few times would attest, these artifacts are often not that interesting once you've acquired them once or twice. Certain useful artifacts like Spellbreaker and Azora's Star become routine acquisitions, picked up as soon as the game allows, while other artifacts that are less interesting or less applicable to a given character build aren't bothered with at all. This is why I decided to give Lielle the ability to study some of the more unique artifacts in the game, It fits her character very well. Being a skilled and inquisitive mage at the College of Winterhold, it stands to reason that she would leap at the opportunity to poke and prod artifacts with unique magical properties, learning what she could from them, and then sharing that knowledge with the player as a reward for finding them. This makes previously boring artifacts worth seeking out again, as not only does the player get a tangible and slightly more useful compensation, it also deepens their relationship with Lielle as a character. Speaking of which, Lielle herself has more awareness of how she feels about the player, and those feelings are subject to change as the player makes specific choices. This feature is most obviously borrowed from Fallout 4's follower affinity system, and has roots in a feature of Serana, the primary follower character from the Dawnguard DLC. As most players are aware, specific choices in dialogue throughout the DLC's main questline influence whether or not Serana will ultimately decide if she will seek the cure to her vampirism once the questline concludes. Fans praised this and other design elements of Serana in particular because it presented such an interesting option for character progression in a game where that character is not actually the focus. Similarly, Lielle's character story will intersect with specific events in the game world. At this time, Lielle will go through one of several character arcs during the course of the College of Winterhold questline. Other character arcs will run parallel to the various story threads in the game world, and Lielle will form and voice her opinions of other characters the player and she encounter, as well as choices the player makes themselves. Rather than being an oblivious piece of moving set dressing, Lielle is meant to be a living, breathing part of the game world as much as the creation kit allows. In future release versions, Lielle will also have quests and events focusing specifically on her backstory and character progression, triggered by events in-game. The ultimate goal in all of this is to build a character-driven story that leans on and draws from the world that story takes place in. Lielle is meant to draw together the various parts of the Elder Scrolls lore, history, and evolution, and inject some new life into a story that players have been running around in for nearly 8 years. If you've made it to this point, I'd like to thank you for watching this video, and I hope each of you gets as much enjoyment from exploring the land of Skyrim with Lielle as I've had creating her story.